Hi everyone, welcome to Hot Dice. Today we're going to be doing the second episode in the Pile of Shame, which is the huge pile of unfinished and unloved miniatures behind me. So today we're going to be doing some of the Stormcast Eternals I've somehow managed to get hold of through the years. But I wanted to try something different with these. Like, I'm going to try a new technique every episode. This one's going to be the grimdark using something called an Enamel Wash. Now, don't let that put you off. It's a £4 bottle that's changed completely the way I paint. So I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide how I do it, and hopefully you'll be able to replicate it pretty easy. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can. Alright, so let's get started. So this is the end result. I just wanted to show you this before we actually started painting it. So this is from the Pile of Shame. I got a load of these Stormcast Eternals. They're gold plastics. I don't really have an intention of playing with them, so I thought, well, you know what, this is a good opportunity to mess around a bit. You can see here, for what is actually quite a smooth, very open miniature, I managed to get a lot of depth. There's a lot of deep, dark colours. The metal parts have both got that excellent transition, the contrast from dark to light, and you know, it's really gritty and dark. So if you just start now, I'll show you how we did it. So these are my new products. I got some AKinteractive. I am not sponsored, of course, but this is dust and grime that'll come in handy later. That's a weathering pigment. This is the winter streaking grime. So this is the Enamel Wash. Very important. We've got some Typhus Corrosion to add texture to the metallic, smooth metallics. You'll see why. And then these are the two metal colours I'll be using. I've also got silver to go with the lead belcher, which is the dark silver, and then Rune Lord brass, because I want it to be really dark. And the contrast black Templar. This is my first time using it. It is fantastic. And some Vallejo colours. You can use any. These are just going to be my cloth colours. I got a basic transition from a dark to a lighter. You could do this with any colours though, really, to be honest. So starting straight off, I've undercoated these Stormcasts grey, as you can see. So they are actually a gold plastic colour when I got them out of the pack. I thought I'd spray them grey. Now I normally do it black, or I used to in the past. But what I found with black is you can't actually see the details that well. You lose a lot of them, and that means you miss them. And I'd say my top tip to anybody who's starting out, or even you've been painting for years and you're undercoating black, try grey, because it just revolutionised the way my miniatures look. And it's all down to, I can see the details on the miniature, I can see what I'm missing, I can see what that colour is supposed to be. And it's still good coverage, and especially with these base colours. I mean, I'm actually watering this down, which is going to be really important here. I used to never water down my paints, another noob mistake, but because we're doing so many layers here, especially pigments, the Enamel Wash is quite thick. There will be a tendency for some of the details to be lost if you're not doing that. Just as I said that, you can see I didn't actually water that down there. Typical. What am I doing? What are you doing, Josh? Yep, so I'm just making sure I get all the bits, don't miss anything. I can be pretty messy, being pretty sloppy with the paint application here. Just trying to get the coverage. Now, I really like these models now I've painted them. I mean, this is always the risk, and why the Pile of Shame is so big. Why there's so many models in my collection that I don't play with, or remain half painted, or I paint one guy out of the box. Because they can just be so fun when you accidentally paint one. And I think Games Workshop know this. They know what they're doing when they give away these miniatures. And you can see my makeshift palette there. That is probably just the lid of a takeaway tub that has been cleaned. I assure you I have ordered an actual palette, not a wet palette. I would love a wet palette, but for now, I'm just going to stick to the techniques that I'm doing today. Okay, so I've obviously finished with the silver. I'm going to move on to all the creams now. So this is the darker creamier colours.
I'm just going to do the plate all the same colour. So because it's a tester model, I just want to see, put as much of this one colour down and play with the transitions. So the armour panelling is going to match the cloth. As you can see, it's the same colour here. Putting it on, again, really nice and thin. These are actually really well watered down. Pretty transparent when they're going on. Not so watery that it falls off. You can see there's no drips or anything. But again, like I said, we're going to be putting a lot of weathering down to get that grim look, especially, and to get that great transition. So I want to make sure the paint's really thin. And to be honest, it doesn't go down that bad, especially on the grey. Maybe that's what helps. So I suppose I should take this chance to talk about enamel washes, so something I've discovered recently. The beauty of the enamel washes, and I should say it now, you're gonna need white spirits with them. So you can get a tub. I think I've got a 5 litre tub that I got off the interwebs. I got it for like £5 or something, and I use like, I don't know, 6 drops worth on here, so that's gonna last me a while. It doesn't go off. But the reason for that is the enamel goes onto these acrylic Games Workshop paints really well. It goes on nice and thick, much thicker than a normal wash. I shouldn't say thick. It goes on less translucent, less transparent than a normal wash. And what you can do then is take a paintbrush or a cotton bud and you can wipe away the paint. So you can clean away mistakes much better than you can with a wash. And then just keep reapplying and taking away and reapplying and taking away. There's no problems. Speed through this. So, yep, just making sure I get all the cloth. Again, the trick to making a really nice model is actually quite an easy technique to get the results that you get, but coverage is absolutely key. Get every part of it. Don't be lazy. Second layer, and that's enough. Okay, just close up the shield. I'm going to do that the same as well. So there's the paneling. So you can imagine if this was actually a nice clean look I was going for, they'd look quite serene. And then going back in with the silver where I've brushed over, because I have got sausage fingers. I'm not great for detail painting, which is why I love this technique so much as well. As long as you just put a little bit of extra work in now, it's all going to pay dividends later. Touching up all the bits I missed. There we go, looking tidy. Looking tidy. Look at the coverage, that's like 2-3 really thin layers. And you just get absolutely, it's like it's wearing nothing at all. It's no detail lost at all. Here we go with the Ruined Lord bronze. Nice colour, goes on quite well. I remember these types of pigments, these bronzy, brassy pigments. Always had trouble with them, especially Games Workshop ones. I've never tried others. Maybe Vallejo do better metallics. I've yet to try them. Something I'd like to try in the future for sure. Just gonna get all the pendants, get the rims, the metallic, I don't know, demi halo on his head. It's got a chain as well along there at the bottom. I think I'll get that. Shield. Just to differentiate it. I think you could do the top rim of the shield as a silvery, a steely metal as well, because I think trying to be realistic about it, that's going to take a battering in a battle. You want that to probably be quite cheap, or at least not made out of the finest metals. It's just little things like that can actually make models look a little bit more realistic. the symbol on there as well. Sorry about the blurring. There we go, getting the parts there. Careful not to get it on any of the cloth. There we go. I think I missed the chain, yeah. But it's quite a big model, it fills my hand, yeah. There we go. Pretty good, right. So now onto the business end. I'm gonna get the contrast paints out. So I lost a bit of footage there, but it's really all you've missed there is just putting the black, the contrast paint on. This stuff is fantastic. I'm putting it on all of the metallics. I'm not messing about. It's going to give me that really deep contrast I'm looking for. Careful on here. I mean, just because it's metallic and it's contrast paint, it does just fall into place where there's crevices. So I'm just letting it do the work. I'm introducing the tip of the brush to the edges, and then it's just filling in the gaps. And anything I go over too much, I can either go over again with the cream, but it's not going to be the end of the world because a lot of it's going to get covered up by weathering as well. But I am going back in with the cream. Again, this is my first time doing the weathering technique. This is the first model I've done it on, so I'm probably nervous and I want to just double check I'm getting it right this time. Now normally I would probably start thinking this is starting to look done. I mean, this is definitely tabletop standard for me. It's not fancy, but you know, it's 3 colours, it's good coverage, it's good contrast. Maybe a brown ink on the, or a brown wash on the robes. But I will say this about the black contrast paint. I have for months during lockdown here been unable to get the non-oil, but it's got rubbish coverage. They've changed the formula. So here it is, just a picture. See, I'm happy with that. That's old me would have been, yes, that's great. Maybe stick a brown wash on the robes. Job's good, and I can fight with this. Especially in my old tournament fighting days. That would have been enough. But that's not the point of this channel. Or the point of this series. This is, let's try something new. So what you're about to see may scare you. Here is the wash. Now, this stuff is intense. And believe me, as I was brushing it on, I was almost crying, thinking, oh my beautiful paint job. What have I done? Nervously opening the bottle lid. Looking at it one last time, hoping that this is not going to be regretted. Oh, it's dark. Yeah. You see, this is when I start to panic a little bit. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It will come off, apparently. So, wet or dry, this stuff should be washed off with a white spirit. So I'm just putting this on all of the cloth. Now, it doesn't matter too much if you get it on the metallics, because I will be going over the metallics again later with this. And I'm not, as you can see, not worried about pooling in the slightest. And that's because of what I'm going to be doing with it. I want it to pool. And anything that pulls on flat surfaces will be taken off. You see, absolutely no problem with coverage there. Straight out of the bottle. I'm unsure if you can water them down. I'm pretty sure you can. It dries very quickly though. Something deeply satisfying about putting this on. It's just like, there's no care, There's no worries, it's just smack it on in the rough vicinity of the location in which you want to apply it. There you go. It's all on. Okay, job's a good one. So, just to show you, this is just the industrial size bottle I got, white spirits. I mean, you can probably, I think people sell specialist, but I have no cotton buds, so I've had to borrow some makeup pads from my girlfriend. Now, this is a nightmare to do with these pads. I really wish I had a cotton bud, but you can see here, very little bit. I'm dabbing off the excess on a paper towel. I'm just starting with the raised areas. I'm just taking it away. So this is actually dry now, the enamel on here. It's got a shine to it, you'll see. But I don't want very much on it. I just want to drag it over, leave all the stuff in the excess, take off as little as possible with each pass. I can always come back and take more off. Now the concern, and it happened to me a lot with these pads, I took way too much off and it just looked too clean again. But I just applied more enamel wash and went back in. It's so forgiving. If you really didn't like it on, you could just dip it in white spirits and it all comes straight back off again with a brush. I'm having a nightmare with this cotton bud. There's bits coming off it. My model's looking a bit furry. Yeah, there you go. Stay together, old buddy, old pal. But anyway, that's how it looks after I've taken it off. So I've added some Typhus rust to everything, as you can see. All the corners and the bits. So that's where the bits is I lost. The footage was too blurry. So I'm just showing you the end result. I've put it on all the panels where there's corners. The flat bits maybe, but the raised areas not so much. So that's going to be really key for adding texture. So don't worry about that. That's how they're going to look like they're battered and they've been used. You know, it's not show armor. And now I'm going back in with the original colour. So just leaving a gap between where the enamel wash is being applied and the very most raised parts, so you're creating a natural transition. Now it's not going to look terribly smooth, so if you've tried wet blending or feathering, I tried that very recently with mixed results. You can obviously get a fantastic transition of colours, and same with airbrush, but that's not the point here. The point here is to create contrast, and what we're going to do later, so I'm just doing it on the raised areas, you can see. What we're going to do later is we're going to add weathering pigments into all the crevices, and they're going to overlap those transitions. They're going to sit in the deepest recesses, over the transition area, and slightly into the raised areas where I've applied this colour, and that's just going to completely smooth it out. And then where you have anything peeking through, it's just going to look like grime and dirt. So now you can see I'm going in with a much lighter colour now. This is the middle tone of my cloth, and I've done it on the very tips. Now you can see I've gone into the recess there. I'm not concerned about that because I'm going to use corrosion to make that into mud. Again, just on the raised areas, it's quite wet, this paint. I've added quite a bit of water on the shield as well. You can see the huge contrast, and that's what we're going for here, contrast. The contrast just makes it, so that's what makes it pop. And that's what makes it look like you're in a dark environment. And the tones we're using is what makes it look grim and dirty. And because we've got the contrast, you can see even with the unfinished armour as it is now, it doesn't look that bad, even though it's covered in that corrosion, Typhus corrosion. But we're going to move on to the metallics now, and then you'll see how that transforms. There you go. You can see not exactly smooth transitions, but don't worry about that. That will soon be taken care of. Dust and deposits to the rescue. I'm just whacking this on. Like I said, anywhere where I can see transitions, it's going in there, and it's not exactly going on there with any due diligence or care either, and not much done. And because it's enamel based, and what I'm doing here is I'm not wiping, I'm dabbing. I want to have an uneven removal, because it goes on wet, but when it dries, I'm assuming whatever's in it evaporates off or dries off, and it goes powdery dry. So that's finished. While that's drying, I'm moving on to the metallics. So going back in with the lead belt chip, I'm only doing the very most raised areas. So the top half of every piece of metallic. So the edges, I'm looking down at the model, and I'm looking in the, looking down and slightly from side to side, and I'm only touching those parts with the metallics. That's what's going to give us that transition. And it's not too thick. Again, do not make this too thick. Multiple thin layers, because I've put that Typhus corrosion, it's like almost like a wet grit. So it has taken a lot of the details out. Which is why I haven't actually put it onto the face, the grit. Just around the bottom of the jaw to get that transition. There we go. It's starting to come together. You can already see that's lead belcher, and it looks bright. And that's a dark metallic, and that's just because of what we've done so far. So what I've done now is I've added a really silvery silver, actually silver by Vallejo, to the lead belcher, and I'm just touching the very tips. But I'm not painting it on so much as I'm dabbing it, because I want to have a mottled look. Just the nose, the top of the forehead, and maybe if you can get a thin line on the eyebrow, on the cheeks, that's great. Okay, here we go. Just adding definition. So where I think the light will be brightest on each panel, and then purest silver, which is just going to be a dot effectively on each panel at the brightest point. You can see I've just put a dot on his forehead there. Very little. I'm just introducing it. There we go. So what you can do now to help smooth those transitions is get your Agrax Earthshade brown wash from Games Workshop, and I'm only putting that in to the recesses. So don't let that touch the top brightest parts that you've just done. And that's the metallic stuff, but you'll see in the picture afterwards. And now the second scary bit, which is the mud. So we're using Typhus Corrosion again here. This time we're doing it to create mud. Now, I've never done this before, and I would advise that you do not put as much as I am putting on. I am watching this and I'm going, no, you're going too far. You need to do random spottles. Splats at the bottom. That's not a word. I just invented a word, spottles. I'm sure if you maybe flicked it on, it would look better. You could maybe flick out a stiff bristled brush and just flick it on at the bottom, or maybe just, which is what I'm going to do, probably practice trying to do a random pattern on the bottom of the cloak. but this is going to go all around the bottom of the edges anyway. Perhaps a thinner brush would have been better. So a thick brush at the very edges and then going into the cloth with a thinner one so I can get smaller spats. That's great. So I'm actually going to do a couple of layers of this because I'm thinking it's looking quite thin, but while it's drying I'll move on to the ground. So the ground, because it was grey, you can see how dark it was. I just put a couple of contrast blacks on there, coats of the Templar contrast, and it's just give it fantastic definition. Because it's stone, it looks fine. But I want to now add this corrosion to the where I can see the soil and dirt. And yeah, the more I'm using this paint, this medium, the Typhus Corrosion, the more I love it. It's so much functionality to it. Yes, it can be rust, but equally it can be anything with that grainy texture. So here we are, this is the finished result. I stuck some dead leaves effects on the bottom, and that was basically it, and added a bit of red to the handle. I left that, so that was just corn red and then a black wash over it, watered down. And you can see for yourself, the mud's probably gone on a bit thick, but because I did that in layers, so I did a layer up to the top and then back down again, it's got the effect of it's been kegged up with mud rather than it's just been painted on. I probably could have spent a bit more time doing colours to, there's some bits on this tablet that hang down there, that they're just black. I was undecided on the colour, so I just left it because for this tutorial I think the grimdark works fine anyway. And you can see there the really deep recesses on both the cloak and the metallics that have been achieved here. And because it's got that painterly style to it, it's not a smooth transition, it really adds to that atmosphere. This could be in a really... This guy's not having a good time. He's actually looks like he's fighting, or has to fight somebody. It's grim business, but somebody's got to do it. And that's what's great about this technique on this model, because these models are so shiny and nice. It makes such a nice change to see them all muddy. So anyway, thanks for watching everyone. I hope that was a big help. It was exciting. I really enjoyed this. I'm going to do it again. What I've just done is I've ordered some Sisters of Battle models, which I am really looking forward to trying this technique out on. So I can see with them there's a lot of robes, there's a lot of metallics to be done. I really think I can take this technique to the next level and do it on those models. That will be coming up in probably about a week once they've arrived and I've painted one to show you. I'll do a video tutorial there as well, but I'll probably add some more colours in there because that was quite a plain one, but I think if there's going to be a lot of golds and earthy tones in there, maybe a good contrast will be purple. We'll see. Anyway, so don't forget to like, subscribe, you can follow me on Instagram. Thanks for watching Hot Dice. Take care.